We are so delighted to be doing this, and we are really passionate about making sure that we support you guys despite lockdown, COVID. Cancer doesn't stop, right? And there's been some really difficult statistics recently saying that 75% of people aren't turning up to their 2-week wait appointments, and we really want to get the message out there about lots of different types of cancers. So without further ado, we've been joined by 3 wonderful young adults, each one of the 34 young adults that are diagnosed daily with cancer, and they've come here to tell their story. But first, we're going to quickly introduce them, and then we're going to talk to the wonderful star of Madame Ovary, Rosa, which I cannot say her surname, so I'm not even...
applause! Thank you. Don't worry about the surname.
It's amazing to have you with us. I'm just going to introduce, my name is Jemima, I'm the health programme lead. Ben, do you want to have a say hey?
Hello, I'm Ben, I'm 29, and I feel like I'm on an episode of University Challenge here. Well, I graduated with a degree in French from the University of Hull. Yay!
And you're our Manchester champion, which is amazing.
I am the Manchester champion, yes.
Brilliant. And Laura, lovely to have you with us.
Hello. So I'm Laura, I'm 33, I'm in Lee. I've only graduated from the University of Life, unfortunately. But yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Arguably a step up from
Rosa.
Yeah. I'm Rosa, I'm 25, and I wrote Madame Ovary just after I got the all clear from ovarian cancer. So yeah.
Right, if you guys can mute yourselves, you, Ben and Laura, so I can have a little chat with Rosa.
Of course, Cam.
And obviously you can ask Rosa some questions if you want. We're gonna, plan is to do about 40 minutes of chat with about 20 minutes with Rosa and 20 minutes with Ben and Laura. And then we're gonna open it up to the floor where we're going to get questions from you guys. Thanks for joining us. So without further ado, I'm gonna welcome welcome Rosa to our Lifting the Lid on Madame Ovary and Other Stories. Bonjour. Lovely to have you with us. So I had the delight of seeing the show in London in February. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Did you come to the November one maybe?
Oh, maybe the November one.
And dates that I did. I think we came in November.
It's an incredible show. It's an incredible feat. It's had amazing reviews. I was really honoured to be there. However, I might have nearly put Rosa off her stride when I sat there weeping, and she was sitting right next to me at the scene when she comes off. So, Rosa, I just want to ask you a little bit about it. It's no easy feat to put on a one-woman show on anything, let alone cancer. So let's go back to when you were 23. Talk us through what happened to you.
So I trained as an actor. I went to drama school in London for 3 years to LAMDA, and my whole plan had always been like, my life is going towards becoming an actor. And I had a really great time at drama school. I graduated, I went into my first acting job, and during that was when I started to notice my symptoms. I had ovarian cancer, so a lot of those symptoms were very physical. It was like bloating and stomach pain. But obviously the problem with that is that you think it's something else. You festive issues, you think, you don't think that basically. So I got back to London after this job finished, and I was, trying to work 3 jobs. I was trying to make my own work. I was actually trying to come up with a theme or a subject for a one-woman show.
Wow.
And which is crazy. And I was like, oh, I'm not interesting enough. There's nothing that's happened to me. And it's like, careful what you wish for, Rosa. And so, I got diagnosed at the end of January 2018. And immediately my life, obviously, as you guys all know, just changed and was put on hold. And any ideas of like acting or creating was like completely put on the back burner. So yeah, that's kind of my story leading up to my diagnosis. Yeah.
So life went from being a actress to spending time on awards as a 23-year-old, coping with cancer. So life really was stopped in its tracks.
Yeah, it really was.
What was the hardest thing for you at that time?
I think the hardest thing for me was not being able to be on the same journey as like my friends anymore. Like, so many of my amazing friends were doing amazing things, and it was incredible. Like, you know, signing Netflix series, doing big gigs in the West End, and I wanted to be there to celebrate with them. I wanted to go to those press nights. I wanted to watch that stuff. I wanted to visit them on set, all of this stuff, and I couldn't. And God, they were brilliant, and they came to visit me and all of that stuff, but there was this part of me that felt like I was being left behind. And equally, on a more selfish level, I wasn't getting those auditions or being able to go out and do that stuff for myself. So I felt a little bit sad that my career was yeah.
And Rosa, in terms of fast forward to when did you start coming up with this show? Was it while you were going through treatment, or was it something that came to you after?
So it really interestingly, I actually I started writing a blog first, which I was actually inspired to do from reading on Trekstock's website. There was this page that there still is, which is all about like your stories, and I'd read all of these amazing people's blogs that went from such a range of just like 10 things to take in your bag when you go to chemo to this is how it happened to me. And I felt so seen and understood. And I was like, this is how I can make myself feel useful. This is how I can start to use my experience and my voice to maybe help other people. I can't go and make art outside. I can't get out of my bed, but what I can do is sit on my laptop and write this blog. So I did. I wrote my story out like a story, really. I kind of, you know, did it in chapters, and it was a really great way to kind of not just connect with new people, but tell the people that were already in my life about what happened to me. So this blog carried on all through treatment, and it was called the Madame Ovary blog. And then just after I got the all clear, someone was like, well, you've got to make it into a show. And I was like, oh, I think I should actually. I think that would be the next step, whilst I'm still kind of getting my life back on track, whilst I'm still trying to sort myself out. I think I would really, really like to make this come full circle and turn it into a play. Yeah.
And what you include everything from what it was like to go through diagnosis, being diagnosed, to being on the wards, the friends you made on the wards, the friends who sadly died on the ward, adjusting to your new body, coping with not recognizing yourself anymore. What's the hardest part of reliving that every time you're on stage? Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you that question was coming up, did I?
Throw that one on me. No, honestly, it's a really good question. It's a really good question because, you know, for everyone who's listening today, who's experienced cancer, I think, you know, the idea of reliving that for an hour every single night for 3 months is quite an intense idea. And firstly, I need to say that like I had a lot of therapy and a lot of mental health support after I was got the all clear, which was amazing, and has helped. And so I was really safe doing it. Basically, I wasn't putting myself through any trauma. I wasn't reliving it as such. Nonetheless, you are always reminded of things that you've been through by doing it. And the hardest thing for me is definitely there's a section of the play where I talk about a friend who I made on the ward, who was in the bed opposite me. We were diagnosed at the same time. We went through treatment kind of at the same time, and she wasn't as fortunate as I was, and she died. And it's not reliving that memory, it's the feeling I suddenly get from the audience. Actually, it's this thing of there's often other young people who've had cancer or people who've experienced cancer, you know, 1 in 2 people are affected in some way, and they're often in the audience, and I can feel the understanding, and it is an amazing feeling to have that empathy. However, it is so hard to get your head that so many people have to deal with this or have to understand what it's like to lose someone to cancer. That's really hard. Yeah.
And when you decided to do this play, Rosa, what was the message you want to convey to the world?
Really good question. And two things. On one level, I really wanted to convey that a cancer story isn't like beginning, middle and end, and the end is like a happy ending. I thought that was definitely what I was going to try and do. I was like, okay, well, what is my happy ending? Like, what is it? I need to think of what it is. And then I was like, Rosa, the reason you can't think of what it is because there is not one, and that is okay. And I was like, that's something new, that's something different. And with the help of my collaborator, producer and director, we decided, like, people want to know the truth, and it will be so much better for young adults who've experienced cancer or anyone who's experienced cancer to see the truth portrayed on stage. So that was what I really wanted to show. And the other thing I wanted to show was, you know, it's so difficult to say this without sounding cliche, but I think things like love really can be cliche, but they're not, they're brilliant. I wanted the message to be that love really will get you through it. Like, that was my experience, and I really wanted to show that. I guess as also a thank you to the people that I'd met in hospital and the people that were already in my life, like my friends and my family, and Trekstock as well. So yeah.
It comes through, the love, it's so strong in that, and it is so important, isn't it? And I'm going to ask Ben and Laura in a minute what the important part friendship plays in getting you through, but also there can be quite a rocky road with friendship and cancer, from what 45% of the community have told us about. There's themes in this play. What would you say are kind of, obviously love is a huge theme in it, but are there aspects of the play that you put in there because you felt actually these aren't talked about enough, or these are things I want to highlight for someone else who's a young adult who's gone through cancer? Discuss.
I think, yeah, I think the thing about having an hour to do this play was a really big challenge, because there was so much that I wanted to say and there was so much that I didn't want to miss out. And so I kind of decided in the creative process to like zoom in on the really key things that were really important. And I knew that I'd be doing this play to two kind of key audiences. One half of those would be people who felt affected by the cancer side of the story, and the other side would be people who are young, poor freelancers who are trying to make their way in the world and try and get their story out there and try and become relevant in some way, because we're in such a big world that feels like it's forgetting about you constantly. I feel like we're always trying to fit in and trying to be something and trying to prove to everyone else that we're important. And that was definitely my experience before I was trying to become an actor, like so competitive. But just in general life, I was also trying to like, you'd be like, look, I exist. I have something important to say. And so a really important, I guess, theme for this was this idea of you're totally enough, you know. And I think we all know that cancer gives you a lot of perspective, but and I'm not saying that it suddenly makes you realize how beautiful life is and nothing is ever hard ever again. Quite what I really wanted to show, that like a lot of that stuff about proving yourself, I think you probably have already proved yourself. And I really wanted a message to come across to people who hadn't had cancer, just about the kind of enormity of what you've already got, whether that's how you already live your life, the friends you've already surrounded yourself with, the family. That idea of enoughness, I think. Yeah.
And my last question, which it does come out, that sense of enoughness and learning to kind of accept yourself where you're at, and accepting your body for the changes that it's gone through and what it's brought you through, comes through so loud and clear in the play. what was the response of the audiences? I mean, you've had amazing reviews. It's no mean feat to be able to, because I know a friend of mine has said it's very hard to sell a play about cancer. It's it's not easy watching, but you've done amazingly, and you've had an incredible amount of people watch it. The response has been extraordinary. What's been the most surprising?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for saying all those nice things. It's really nice to hear that at the moment. I think I was really blown away with the responses, especially post Edinburgh. Like, taking a show to Edinburgh is hardcore, and it's painful, and it's expensive, and you never know what's going to happen. But it was wonderful, and I think the subsequent tour that sadly we had to cancel the end of it because of COVID, but completely understandably. I think the whole thing with everything is I'm constantly surprised with the amount of people who connect to it, and the things that they connect to. There's a section where I talk about my dad and my relationship with my dad, and how he kind of brought into my life. And there was this point when I was really ill where I couldn't listen to music because it made me feel too sad, and it made me feel like I was missing out on like something out there that had made me feel happy once. And this amazing thing kind between me and my dad when we talked about that. And a really wonderful thing that happened was that I had a lot of fathers come and talk to me and say, that bit, I was, they'd be like, I'm hard as nails, me, but when you said that bit about your dad, I wept. And it's like, really, it's really special knowing that a play that is called Madame Ovary, like, could you be more female with that, biologically female with that description, but it reaches people who I think don't think it's going to be for them, maybe. And another thing was really great was that the huge theme of it is Louis Theroux, who's like my personal hero, and he heard about it and messaged me. So that was a response that I'd been waiting for. So it was good that.
I think it transcends cancer as well. It transcends the journey, and I think there's so many themes that because you guys are not just your cancer diagnosis. You've had lives before, and you'll have lives after cancer treatment's finished. The last thing I'm going to say, I think I'm on time too, is the effects of cancer live on way past treatment ending, and that comes out, and how through trauma, because having cancer is a trauma, you change, and that comes out hugely. And I think what we need to remember is your story is a very powerful one, but as one of the 34, there are many other stories out there. The fact that the stories aren't really told, that is such a key stage of your life in your 20s and 30s to get cancer. And this is why I believe massively in what we offer as a charity, that it's relevant, that it's important, and it's a key stage of your life when you were just getting going and the rug gets pulled from underneath your feet, and we want to help you rebuild that. So without further ado, we want to hear from two other young adults who play a huge part in Trekstock's life as well, and have also been diagnosed with cancer and make up the 34 as well. So I'm going to turn first to Ben and Laura, then I'll come and turn to you, and then there's a few questions that you guys can answer as well. Hello, Ben.
Oh, I was mid-drink there. Hello.
Great to have you with us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And Ben is one of our Manchester champions, which you can tell people what that means. But a little bit about your story and what's gone on.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed a couple of days after my 19th birthday. I found a lump in my neck the size of a table tennis ball, give or take. Went to the doctor. Funny story, on the way down, went to see my best mate, and he said, I bet it's cancer, as a joke. That went down, obviously, a few months later in the diagnosis. That was an interesting conversation we had. I laughed, he didn't. Went to the doctor, went through the usual rigmarole, which I imagine we'll probably discuss later a little bit in terms of how we go about that, so I won't cover that too much, but got diagnosed, went through my treatment, is Hodgkin's lymphoma. So went through my treatment and obviously came out the other side. Bearing in mind I'm nearly 30, that's obviously 10 years of remission, which is great. But I think for me, something that you touched on there with Rosa in terms of like it absolutely like car crashing your path, as it were. I just finished my first year of university when I got diagnosed.
What are you studying?
French. So obviously take a year out because you don't really have a choice. You have to fight some battles, like when you speak to your prospective landlords and you tell them that you've got cancer and you're having to drop out, so you can't take the room up, and they go, oh well, you could be surfing in Australia for all we know. Which, you come and have a look at my bald head, mate. Have a word. I'll take a photo. It's cool. Don't worry, I'll show you. Yeah, that went really well. But the big thing for me, I suppose, was I came back into my second year, and all of my friends from my first year. So for those of you that do a languages degree, 2 years at university, a year abroad, and then a fourth year at university. So I came back into my second year and all of my mates were on the year abroad. So struggling with, I suppose, life again for a start. Ain't got any mates. I met 2 people beforehand on Facebook, and having to throw yourself into that when they're going, oh, what happened to you last year? Where were you? I didn't see you last year. Oh, funny story. Is quite difficult. But also like taking a year out from learning a language, like it's not like riding a bike. So I had quite a lot on my plate. And yeah, it was an interesting time. And I think it's probably something that we don't talk about enough, which is why it's really good to see something like Rosa's play making a statement about it, or making it more socially acceptable to talk about. But yeah, it was an interesting time. Obviously got through it, so winning. But yeah, that was fun. That was a good time in my life.
Ben, what would you say your mates were there for you?
So some of them really were. I think a couple really struggled with me not being well. So I think everyone that's here as panelists or is will be able to relate to the fact that some people who are your friends will handle it worse than you will, because you don't have a choice. You can't run away from it. You've got to deal with it. There is no getting around that. Whereas the friends they see you, and your family can be the same. My dad was a wreck when he came to a treatment with me once. He just didn't know what to do, and some people just cannot handle it. And you sit there and you sort of think, oh, I almost feel bad for them because I don't have a choice. They're watching me suffer. I'm just dealing with it. I crack on. But I had a load of mates who were really good. I travelled up to university whilst they were all in their second year, caught up with them, made sure that I took time out to go and visit them. And I think a lot of my friends were there and were really good to not necessarily rely on, but to use as support and to be able to talk to. I just found it difficult that I didn't have that many that could relate, which is obviously something that Trekstock now does really well. At the time, unfortunately, they weren't around, so I found it quite difficult to talk to people who got it.
Yeah,
I suppose. So yeah, everyone was really good. It was just a different time where you didn't quite have that support network that you maybe needed.
And when you were diagnosed, out of interest, were there topics that you feel that weren't addressed? Because you're very, very brilliantly doing our 34 days of virtual challenge at the moment. I mean, taking on no mean feat. What are you up to, Ben?
So I am virtually in Gloucester. I am cycling from Land's End to John O'Groats, which is 874 miles. which works out at just under 26 miles a day. So,
The
yeah,
marathon day.
yeah, give or take. A little bit out of my comfort zone because I'm a runner. I'm not a cyclist. My first time on a bike in 6 years was 3 weeks ago. So, yeah. So it's different. It's definitely different. But in terms of topics that weren't really covered, I mean, I just don't think. Pardon?
Did you exercise during treatment?
I did, but I had 2 different regimens. I was on 2 rounds of OEPA and 4 rounds of COP. Now the OEPA is really steroid heavy, and basically I'd stuck on a ton of weight through water retention and just eating like it was going out of fashion. I mean, honestly, insane amounts of food. Couldn't help it. But then COP was really aggressive, so I started my treatment at 11 stone. I went up 14, and at the end of my wasn't even at the end, it was maybe 2 months into my the second 4 months, I was probably down at 9 stone.
What was that?
I fluctuated massively, so it was horrific. Like porcelain telephone. Honestly, just spent my life with my head in a toilet bowl. There's no polite way of putting it. So I did exercise because I felt like I sort of had to, and it felt a bit freeing, but it was so hard. It was, and I didn't really have that conversation because I was an avid cricketer beforehand, massive cricket player. Like I lived and breathed it, and I couldn't keep doing it to the same standard because I didn't have the energy. And then on the second part of the treatment, I was just like a wreck. So no one really prepared me for, this is going to be absolutely grueling on your body. There was none of that. There was lots of good conversations around, the support networks that are out there at the time, and, nutrition and stuff like that. But there was just, for me, I always still am so active that I probably needed that. You're 19, you're struggling to get your head around the possibility that you might die. Never mind, like, oh well, can I still do sport? Can I still play cricket? Am I going to be able to do a press up? Do you know what I mean? So your brain isn't there for that. You can't like legislate for that at all.
And what was it like because in Rosa's place talks about body image and coping with change to her body and not recognizing it, and very
God.
What was that like to go from, I mean, to look different? Did you recognize yourself?
No. I have 2 photos of me going through treatment, and one is of the back of my head at what would have been my second year cricket welcome party initiation. Everyone's bladdered. But honestly, I looked like a fat egg, and I hated it, and I couldn't do it. And the second photo of me, as a couple of them, was back at visiting my friends at university, and I've got peach fuzz hair, and I honestly look like I haven't had a meal in months. And I posted it a couple of months back, and just a number of people like, you don't look like either of those, like then they're not you. It was grim, and in hindsight I wish I'd taken more, because I could have documented it and gone, could have seen the change, but I'm just scared. I couldn't cope. How do you?
What helped, if anything?
People telling me that it'll get better. It will get better. You will come through it, particularly once you get sort of you have your 4 months in scanning again. You barely got anything left. You're a couple more months and you're good to go. Just that sort of, the nurses were really good, actually. I was at Nottingham City Hospital because I lived over in Lincoln at the time, and the nurses were excellent. They were an absolute ray of light in a really dark time for me, and it was, they would make my day, just by NHS, just by being them. And it's, you know, they didn't get paid enough, but that's another conversation. But they were fabulous, and that, like, honestly, between that and, you know, some of my mates just being there when I really needed them, it was the only thing that really got me through. It was horrific.
Horrendous, absolutely horrendous, and I can't imagine what it must have been like not to have known other people going through it at the same time. What's it like now being a Trekstock champion and being able to support those people who are going through it? Does it trigger you, or do you find it? Is it good to support?
I think you're always, you know, you can be 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and I still think there are going to be things that make you crack a little bit at times. I had a coffee morning with another undisclosed charity whose name I won't mention, and I just sat there, spoke to the person there, and I just started crying, like, in the middle of work, and I was like, oh God. But knowing that you can actually support people, and that, you know, for those people going through it, there are people they can talk to, is massive. It's the support network I wish I had at the time, and it makes, you know, I'd like to think it makes a massive difference to those people, because they know that they've got other people that they can rely on, they can turn to, who are of a similar age, not necessarily going through the same cancer or, you know, treatment, but who are going through it, who get it. And, you know, to have that available to you in numerous different shapes, whatever the session is, whatever is being run, whether it's a meet and move, whether it's meeting up, like Ryan and Sean did the bowling, for example, you know, whether it's just meeting up for a couple of pints, or, you know, coffee and, like, yoga, anything, just to sort of help people remember that they're still them, and that's fine. Doesn't matter what you're going through, that is still okay.
Yeah, I think that is a brilliant way to segue into Laura. Thank you so much, Ben, for being so open and honest and sharing your story, because I expect loads of people have found it incredibly moving and helpful. Thank you, Rosa. Laura.
Not a problem.
Ben's broke me.
Oh, Ben's broken you.
He's broke me.
Oh,
horrible. I'm like sat here just like, he's broken me. Too much for a Tuesday evening.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's just when he's so powerful, and he just speaks about it so well.
Yeah, you speak amazingly, Ben, by the way.
This is going on my CV.
Guys, can you mute yourselves so Laura can have a nice chat with me? Laura, I had the delight of meeting you in our office not that long ago, and we managed to persuade you to come and be a Manchester champion, didn't we? And
I came to pick up leaflets and left with more than leaflets. And you distracted me with the dog. They put this dog on my lap, and I was like, oh, he's so cute. Would you like to be a meet champion? What did he say? Just let me stroke the dog. I left with 2 bagfuls of leaflets thinking, what happened? I don't know what happened.
You persuaded her to host our meet and move.
Yes. I need to learn the word no. No,
it's all right. Yes.
Okay, you distracted me with the dog. That's what it is.
So Laura, you and Ben are champions together. Laura, tell me a little bit about when you became one of the 34.
So I was diagnosed in June 2016 when I was 29, and I was diagnosed with cervical cancer after a routine smear test. So I had no signs, no symptoms, absolutely no idea. It literally like sideswiped me, came out of nowhere. Even in hindsight, kind of looking back, thinking, well, did I have the bleeding? Did I have pain? Nothing. Absolutely zero. It literally just kind of appeared out of nowhere. But I think as well, I was told it was a cancer every step of the way. So I went for my smear, which I had delayed by only 3 or 4 months. So it wouldn't have changed my story. I went for my smear. The nurse said everything looks fine with my smear. And then I got a letter about 6 weeks later saying I had abnormal cells. Really big, complicated letter full of really big words. Didn't understand the bloody word bit. And I was like, well, what is this? You know, it said I had HPV. It said I had high-grade dyskaryosis, and it meant nothing. And I just remember sitting on my bathroom floor crying, thinking, but I didn't know what I was crying about because I didn't know what it meant. And I remember Googling on my phone, kind of trying to find out what it was. And, you know, HPV came up as a sexually transmitted disease. So then I'm thinking, oh my God, I've been with my partner for 10 years. I'm going to kill him. You didn't know which to deal with, birth, the cancer diagnosis, or the infidelity. So I just sat on my bathroom floor and cried instead. I was like, what do you do? So because of that, I spoke to nobody. I didn't tell anybody about the letter. I didn't speak to anyone until I had a cold positive appointment about a week later. And I couldn't go because I was on my period. Sorry, boys. But I was, and I was like, I felt like I dodged a bullet. I was like, I can't go. And they was like, well, come back next week. And I went back, and I remember going in and saying, well, I'm still spotting. And they went, oh no, we can do it. And I was like, and I'm still trying to get out of going because I don't think I quite understood how serious it could be. And because I was 29, I was healthy, I had no symptoms, so why would I have cancer? There was no reason for it. And I went into the consultant and I asked him, he said, do you know why you're here? And I said, do I have cancer? And he said, no. And the chances are minute. So I felt really silly for asking. And I was like, well, there we go. So I had LETS treatment. They did that and they said, right, we'll send you a letter and we'll see you in 6 months. Instead of a letter, I got a phone call. Nobody wants the phone call. I think all of us as cancer patients, if you've been for an appointment, you want the letter. You don't want the phone call. I think we all do that. And I just remember getting a phone call off his secretary saying, just in case you don't get the letter in time, you've got an appointment tomorrow. And I was like, well, why? And she said, oh, I don't know. And I was like, with all due respect, I think you do. And she said, no, but I can tell you to bring someone with you. And I was just like, oh. And I still kind of fought with myself, thinking, are you being so dramatic? People who have cancer are ill. They've had a symptom, they've had a sign, just something. So I still went by myself. Because I thought, well, if I take someone with me and it's just something and nothing, I feel like I've been really dramatic. And I also thought on the other side, if it is something bad, I want to hear it myself. I want to process it. And I went in and it was that whole cliche, and I have never seen a doctor so apologetic because he told me just a few weeks earlier and he just said, I'm so sorry, it's cancer. And I just, you know, there's a bit of a joke with my friends saying I've got a swinging brick, not a heart. So that's always, you know, I'm always kind of like, come on now, you know, get up. And I just broke. I have never cried like I cried that day. And I remember begging him, and I said, you know, because at the time my children were 2 and 6. And I just remember, and I kept repeating, like, you need to save me, you need to save me. I remember saying, my kids won't remember me. You know, if I die, they're not going to remember me. I remember saying, that idiot I live with, you can't bring them up. He sends us to nursery in pajamas. You have to save me. Oh. And they were just amazing. They just let me cry. And then I just remember taking a really deep breath and just saying, well, what now? You know, what do we do? Fix it. Whatever you need to do, I don't care what it is, just fix it. And he said, I'm going to look after you.
And what did you have treatment, or did you just have surgery?
I had surgery. So they gave me the option of either having a cone biopsy and then they would test the tissue and that could be it. And if the tissue wasn't, clear enough, then I would have a hysterectomy. So they gave me some time to think about it, and I opted to have a hysterectomy because I didn't want lots of recovery. And I kind of wanted the whole, it can't grow on what's not there.
Yeah.
I had 2 kids. which, you know, people kept saying, you're so lucky, you're so lucky. And I think, well, I don't feel bloody lucky at this moment in time, but I'll take it, you know. And I remember thinking, well, what about if I wanted 5 kids? Why, you know, and I was lucky, but yeah, so I had a hysterectomy, I had a total hysterectomy, so I kept my ovaries.
That's huge to go through without having
Yeah.
cancer. Hysterectomy is a huge thing to go through without having to cope with cancer as well. Can you relate to some of the stories, the themes that we talked about? What was the hardest thing going through that?
Losing my fertility. I was born to be a mum, and even though I am a mum, I wanted to be a mum to so many more. And I find this, you know, a lot of women can't relate to this. I'm, you know, losing my period.
Yeah.
You know, because I still cycle, so I still go through the symptoms. You know, I still kind of, you know, I get the, you know, the bloating a little bit, I get the headaches, and then, but I don't have that, the end game, so to speak. So I miss it, and it's just having that choice taken away. You know, okay, I might not have had any more kids, but I might have had more children, and having that option taken away at 29. I remember having a conversation with my partner when I was trying to decide what surgery to go for. And I remember saying to him, are you going to stay with me? And he's like, what a question to ask. And I said to him, I said, you know, at 29, if you leave me now, I'm no use to somebody else at 29 because they might want kids. And these are conversations that you don't want to have. And I remember doing a pro and con list for having a womb and not having a womb. And it was so surreal, and I completely underestimated how big the surgery was. I just thought I'd be in and out. You know, it still affects me now. You know, we're almost 4 years on, and I still have after effects from the surgery. And yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I underestimated it.
Huge to go through, and talking about fertility is something that I'm sure lots of these participants can. I don't think people are prepared at all in terms of what it's like to mourn your periods, to cope with infertility in your 20s and 30s, and to be given an option, or at least talked about why there isn't an option. Apparently 4% of cancer patients are actually talked to about fertility, or given the option. So I think it's something we massively need to talk about. The last question I wanted to talk to you about, Laura, is 4 years down the line, you're still coping with the aftermath of cancer.
Yeah.
A lot of people say to you, oh, you finished treatment, you've done what you've done, you know, why are you still talking about it? What message, actually all of you can give us, what message would you have to someone who would say that, a friend, or, you know, you finished treatment, life's back to normal. Is there a back to normal?
No, there isn't a back to normal, and I think for each of us it will be a different answer. For me, because cervical cancer isn't a cancer of the past yet, and it should be. So until every woman is attending their smear test, I won't stop talking about it. And I'll speak every day, every minute, every hour until it is a cervical cancer of the past for my daughter when she grows up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, do you know what? Whether it's cancer, whether it's a death of a loved one, whether it's any big life-changing moment in your life, it's going to affect you, whether in a good way or a bad way. And you can speak, but it's your journey. You don't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
Just yourself. And if you're comfortable still speaking about it, and you want to speak about it, then why not? Why not? It's your life, it's your journey. Do as you please.
And Laura, what's it like to be a champion?
I love it. So my first move session was just brilliant. It was just, it was such a lovely group of people. And do you know what? It was just nice being in a room where it was just acceptable just to say it, because people don't like saying the word cancer. It's kind of one of them words that you kind of go, you know, it's one of them. But everybody knew everybody's story, so you weren't being whispered about. You know, I remember when I was diagnosed, I was on a health kick, and I was going to a well-known swimming group, And I couldn't go back afterwards. Every time I went in, I was whispered about that, you know. And so when you go to a meet and move session, do you know what? You've all had it. So you so it can be spoken about. It isn't a taboo subject, and it isn't uncomfortable to speak about, and everybody gets it. And there's so much nodding that goes on when somebody says something and they go, yeah, and that happens all day. And, you know, somebody will say something and you go, yeah, and so it's so relatable, and it's just lovely. And that meet and move session, for anybody who might be watching who's not been, those group of people are friends for life, I can assure you. I see them speak on Instagram, and it's just beautiful. And we all had different cancers, different stages, different ages, and no matter what we do on Instagram, they're always liking, they're always sharing, and they're just they're just lovely. They're just friends for life, definitely.
That's wonderful to hear. Ben and Rosa and Laura, the last question is, what would today 34 young adults are diagnosed with cancer in the UK? What would be your message to them?
Good question. I think it's okay to talk. Like, don't close yourself off, and don't think that you have to go through it on your own. Which is, it felt like how I was handling it. There are one and two are going to be affected by it. There will be someone out there who can relate in some way, shape or form to you, someone who can, you know, chat to you and go, it will be okay. Or, you know, if it's a different sort of scenario where, you know, maybe the diagnosis is a little bit different, there are people that will be going through that as well, who can sit down and have that conversation. And it's, I suppose this is the reason why we do these sorts of things, is so that people recognize that if you don't talk about it, no one can help you. No one can support you, because they don't know that's how you feel. If you talk about it to anybody, you know, someone will be able to support, help, make you feel a bit better. That would be it for me. Talk.
Yeah, keep talking. Rosa?
I think Ben summed it up so well, but it is about reaching out to other people. I'd say utilize this community, whether that's through Instagram. Like, some of my best friends I've met via Trekstock, and then got to know them through Instagram and the internet, and just there are so many people out there who get it, and it's such a blessing. And so yeah, my advice would always be, join those groups, you know, follow people, comment on people's pictures being like, hey, like, I've got the exact same thing as you, and God, what am I doing? And it's incredible, because the further we get down the line, us lot, there's more people, there's 34 young people coming in every day that we can use our experience to help. So, and we're happy to, you know. So yeah, that would be my advice. Use that.
Brilliant.
Use the Instagram for some good, you know. Yeah.
And Laura?
Oh, they've summed it up so well. So don't be afraid to reach out, and if the support isn't offered, look for it. So I was made to feel like I didn't need support because I weren't having chemo, I weren't needing radio, but I did. And I reached out, I looked for it, I found you, I found other charities as well. And through that, friends that I did lose through cancer, I've made 10 more. Like, so yeah, reach out. So you deserve the support, you deserve it. So it's a hard time. So even if you are a few years down the line, still come along with the support.
So keep talking, reach out, use the internet for good. And thank you so much. Hearing 3 stories of you guys is so powerful, because each one's so different. The thing I think a lot of people need to take away from those people who haven't had cancer is that cancer isn't just about losing your hair, going through chemo. People don't lose their hair, just have surgery, but it's just as traumatic, and they need support. And the most important thing is to hand back the baton to those 34 young adults who are being diagnosed every day, that there is support out there and we've got them. So does anyone have any questions from the audience watching?
We
covered it all.
Yes, may take a minute to write. Shot, Ryan.
Oh, big one.
Oh, he's writing. Oh, yeah. We've got 2 more minutes, so 2 questions, that's it. I'm going to do the thank yous while Ryan writes it. Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so, so much. Lovely to meet you. Hope to meet you in person someday when COVID's over. Laura,
not a problem.
So much. Rosa, it's been an absolute delight to speak to all 3 of you. We really passionate about spreading the word about Trekstock and making sure we continue to offer this support to you guys in this time. So I hope this has been really supportive and helpful for other people watching today. I'd love to see some comments. If you're not asking a question, please.
Emma's asked one.
Emma's asked one.
On the Q&A section.
Oh, interesting. Emma, always an interesting one.
Wow. That's my girl.
Wow.
It's a great question.
Yeah, okay.
I think there is.
You think there is, Laura? The question is, do you think there is a north-south divide in the experience for cancer?
I don't think so much in the experience, but I think there's a lot of events and a lot of support down south for cancer patients. There's always, I have spent so much money on train tickets going down to London. It seems to be the centre of all. And everything I go to, I love. But I think it's really important to point out that I'm in quite a fortunate position. I can afford those train tickets. Not all the time, but sometimes. But especially going through treatment, you can't. We're really lucky that Trekstock has now got meet and move sessions up north, but that is about it.
We're working on it.
You know, Trekstock, you are flying the flag, but that is it. There's nothing. And there's always something going on in London, so I do think there's a divide. But me and Ben are here to change that. Me and Ben are here to fix the world.
And we've I've been having a chat with Sean and Ryan from the Cancer Lads about a couple of possible options for other things, because they're based over in Newcastle, so there might be something that we can look at further, that might unite the North. That sounds a little bit like of a revolution, doesn't it? It's not how I mean it, but something along those lines too, but yeah, to maybe make it, to get that going a little bit. I think Ryan sent a separate question through as well, if you wanted to cover that one off in the chat.
I'll take a picture of you, lovely lot.
I'm posing.
I can't see. Okay.
Oh, so go on.
Finishing cancer treatment, I find that I'm still coming.
That's a good question, that, Ryan.
And today I was hard on myself and forgot about everything I've been through. Listening to you has given me a pep talk and allowed me to remember. I'm going to cry. Remember that it's okay. We're all doing what we can. Thank you. I think we can end on that. It's okay not to be okay, right?
Correct.
And we've got each other. We've got you, and you've got each other.
Have you seen Ryan's question there as well about for Rosa? I think
that is a good question about swapping it all to go back to a life. Gift or grievance is a question I was asked recently, and I know some amazing things come from cancer, amazing friends, and especially Rosa with that incredible show. Thank you. Would you swap it all to go back for a life without cancer? That's such a good question, and it's so hard to answer, isn't it, without sounding weird. It's icky because it's like I can't change the fact, we can't change the fact that it's happened to us, and like the things I've learned, I've learned some lessons, and I've made some incredible friends, and I wouldn't shit a worst enemy, but I wouldn't wish to go back and change it, because I think that would be a waste of a wish. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
I'd probably wish for something else.
Right, guys.
Agreed.
Thank you so much. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Jemima.
We've definitely talked about again. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Rosa. It's been, I just love doing this so much. It's been
You're good at it.
honor.
You're very good at it.
Lots and lots of love, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Take care.